Okay, so the first question I wanted to ask you was, how do you start your day? So do you have any routines? Do you wake up at a certain time? Is there anything that you do every single day?
Well, you were asking me how I start my day, and the way I start my day at the moment is very different from how I normally start my day, because obviously we're still on lockdown, but I am running a court from home, which is a strange thing. And so my day at the moment starts with rolling over in my bed, and the first thing I do is I read my emails from the night before. And that's because everything is now being done electronically. There's no phone messages, there's no papers. Everything I need to know, I will have as an email. Having calmed myself by doing that, whilst I'm at home, the first thing I do is I go downstairs and I make breakfast for me and my son. And while I'm doing that, I also tidy up the kitchen so that it looks decent for the day. So I'll brush the floor, make sure that all the washing up's away, and then I have breakfast with my son, which I make. And I think that's an important thing. Normally my son and I don't live together, but it gives us a structure and a start to the day so that we can talk about what I'm going to do, what he's going to do, and then we go our different ways. If I was in my normal situation at court, the first thing that I would do would be read my emails, but then I would probably do quite a lot of work before I'd even left my bedroom, because I think it's important to feel that you're on top of everything before you start. And so having made sure that I'd read all the updaters that I'd got for the day, I would then go and have my breakfast and then I walk to court. I always walk to court because I like to feel much more grounded if I walk to court rather than if I drive. And then I start the day at court, say hello to the clerks, say hello to the staff, and just check out what problems we've got and what our arrangements are going to be for the listings. So that's how I start my day.
That's cool. The next thing we wanted to kind of ask was, what is your role exactly, and do you mind explaining what it entails, and also how did you get to where you are now?
Right, well, I'm a circuit judge. I sit in crime. Because I'm a circuit judge, that means I'm the full wigs and gowns and the full bit. I have recently trained as a family judge so that I will be able to offer dual qualification, which I can't do in my current court, which is St Albans, which only has a criminal sitting. But if I move courts, I will be able to do both crime and family wherever I go. So as a circuit judge, your job to a large extent involves explaining the law to juries and keeping a trial on the right track. Of course, you don't make the decisions. It's the jury that will make the decisions at the end of the day as to guilt or innocence, but you're the one that makes the decisions about the law. So I make the legal decisions as the case goes along. I also spend a fair amount of my time passing sentence on people and trying to determine what is the right course for individuals. At the moment, I'm spending a lot of time trying to work out which trials are the most urgent for us to try when the pandemic is over. So I'm what we call triaging all the trials that we've got in our current list. So I'm doing about 20 of those a day, looking through them, working out which should go first. So that's what I do. How did I get here? Well, I was a criminal barrister, and that's a very conventional way to get to be a judge. I became a barrister very early. I didn't have a career beforehand, and to a large extent that's because I come from a legal family. I come from a traditional legal family. And so really I had no tales to tell as to my battles to become a barrister, because frankly there is no tale. I come from a position of privilege, and I took advantage of that privilege to become a barrister and then ultimately to become a judge. I think the thing I would say in terms of challenges I've met on the way, I did have an unpleasant divorce. My husband left me, and that was when I think the pressure was on me to give up the bar and do something else. possibly something salaried, something that didn't involve such long hours. And so that was the testing time for me, looking after 2 children and carrying on being a barrister. And I involved a lot of my friends, including Sarah Bashir, were incredibly helpful to me at that time. If they hadn't had the help of my friends, I wouldn't be where I am now. So that's what I do and how I got there.
I also wanted to ask, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently? Like you mentioned, you went through a divorce. Is there anything, do you feel as if maybe you would have believed yourself more at the time? Is there anything you would have done?
Well, when I started off at the bar, I started in London Chambers, and I left that London Chambers to come north because the girl just ahead of me in the London Chambers was so amazingly good. I thought, I'm never, ever going to be up to her standard. I'm going to go home because, I'm beat. But she turned out to be one of the youngest ever female silks, Claire Montgomery. And I think if I'd had more confidence in myself and not compared myself with her, it might have changed the course of my career, because I might have said, right, well, I'll stay and fight my corner in London. But because I looked at Claire Montgomery and thought, there is no way on this God's earth that I'm ever going to be as good as her, which actually is quite true. I would be as good as her, but then neither would 99% of female bar. I might have stayed in London and that might have changed things. So yes, that's something that I might have approached differently. As far as my divorce is concerned and staying at the bar, I'm absolutely delighted that I did. It seemed incredibly challenging at the time. I seemed to be working every hour. I felt very guilty about not spending more time with my children, but in fact my children now are very proud of me. They're very pleased that I did do that. So I think there I made the right decision, and I'm glad I didn't change course. So that's me.
When you face any challenges, what do you do, or what helps you to gain your confidence back? What gets you back on your feet? What would you advise us to do as young people trying to attain our goals whenever we face failure or struggles? What would you advise us to do to kind of gain our confidence?
Crumbs. Well, that is a massive question. What do I do to face challenges, and what do I advise other people to do to face challenges? Give yourself time. Don't rush your decisions. If you've had a knockback, and goodness knows we all do get knockbacks, if you've been in front of a judge who's been particularly foul to you, or if you've had a day when it's a younger stage where your pupil master just isn't content with what you've done, take a breath. Never make a decision without sleeping on it, I would say. And in terms of facing the challenges, talk to other people. Talk to other people, because if you are feeling put down by one particular person, the thing you need to do is go and ask other people. There are, thank goodness now, always, in whatever sphere you're in, people that you can go to. You may not immediately be able to recognize them, but there will be other people who will help you to find them. For instance, when you're a young barrister, there is your inn, and there's a welfare officer at your inn. When you're at a law school, there will be a tutor. There is someone allocated to help you to do what, if it comes under the broad bracket of welfare, at every stage of training. And when you're in chambers, thank goodness, the wonderful thing about being a barrister is that you have all the chambers is your sounding board. And I remember when I used to be in chambers, and if anybody's had a really bad day, we always used to meet up at lunchtime back at chambers, and we used to just say no, and everybody else used to go no. And there's a lot of pleasure in just getting other people's bounce back. Don't ever feel it's just you and your computer and an empty room. Lawyers talk, that's what we do, and we should talk to each other. And so take every opportunity that you have. And when you are a bit further on, turn back and help the next person up. I don't say that particularly because I'm a woman, I think it should apply to all, but I think that women have faced particular difficulties over the years, and I've been delighted to see all the various arrangements that there have been to particularly assist women, and I'm very keen to contribute to those myself. Right, so that's that's my answer. But do answer, if there's any follow-up questions you want to ask, please do.
A personal question that I would like to ask you was actually based on female empowerment. I wanted to ask you, as a female, how have you overcome challenges, especially that comes when it comes to your gender? People may be thinking, because you're a woman, you can't achieve this, and like you mentioned before, having children. How did all of that affect you? And what advice would you give to other females who are trying to look to achieve some of the things you've achieved as well?
I would like to say to you, you're asking me what are the particular difficulties of being a woman and female empowerment. I would like to say to you, well, you know, the problems that there were when I was a girl have all gone, but in fact that's not the case. I grew up in a time, which I was called to the bar in 1984, so I'm really very old indeed, where sexist remarks, even, you know, the odd grab or fondle was regarded as being, you know, fair game by an awful lot of older male barristers. And so far as that was concerned, I always found shouting helped. I was an early advocate of shouting. I think the quieter you are, when these things happen, the more difficult it is. But if you shout and draw attention to yourself and the person who's committing whatever it is, that has a powerful opportunity to embarrass. Happily, that particular aspect of life has changed a lot since I was at your age, 19. But there are still subtle knocks that happen. I remember when I first told my first chambers that I was pregnant with my daughter, which was 28 years ago, they said, as one, it was chambers T, well, then we won't be seeing any more of you. No, goodbye, Caroline. I said, no, not goodbye. And I suddenly realised, and it came as a shock to me, because this was the 1990s, that I was in fact going to be the first female member of those chambers who returned to work after having had a child. And as far as that is concerned, how did I manage that? I just called them out. I mean, I'm thick-skinned, but it's taken me a while to gain that thick skin. But I basically challenged them on the spot, and I said, look, are you suggesting that I'm not going to come back because having had a baby I'll be unfit to be a barrister? And are your fathers? What's the difference? Yeah, so that was how I dealt with it then. Now I am the only female judge amongst, with 6 male judges all in my court, because although the entry level at the bar is very much 50-50, or in fact I think there's probably more women joining now than men, when it comes to my age group, because of course there are so few women coming through from my age, because so many people did give up when they had children, there are fewer female judges than there are male judges. And I think I just apply a relatively modified version of what I've always done, which is calling it out if I think it's happening and not being afraid to be loud, because that's what I am. And if I can't manage these things, how can I expect anybody else to? But I am possibly overconfident. I have the advantage of coming from the background that I come from, which is a privileged background, and I think that has made me more confident. But the important thing for me to do is to make sure that the same opportunities are given to those who don't have the same background, and that I challenge people who make assumptions about being a woman to make it easier for those who are coming later. So yeah, how do I manage things? I'm loud.
I really love what you said about being loud and standing your ground. I think for me, when I face things like that, a lot of the time I tend to shy away and be quiet and try and go in the background. But I'm really encouraged.
We all do.
Yeah.
It's absolutely natural to want to just go away, to leave it, to just leave it. And because also, all women feel guilty. It is a curious thing. If something bad happens, the first thing we feel is that it must be our fault. That, we must have made some error or so. And I can never know, don't know why, but I certainly have it myself. And just having this as a mantra in your mind, no, this is not my fault. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be loud. And resisting that very, very understandable, which never goes. I mean, I still feel guilty about so many things. But just having in your mind, oh, I know this is not my fault. So that's what I say, be loud.
Thank you so much for answering all the questions. I've gained so much knowledge and I've really enjoyed it.
Not at all. It's been lovely to meet you, and I hope to have you. Now, what I would like to talk to you about is just a little bit, or are we running out of time?
No, we're okay. We're okay at the moment, Caroline.
I'd just like to talk to you a little bit about what to do in terms of experience and trying to build up your portfolio, so to speak, building up your CV. Are you happy to talk to me about that?
Yeah.
Right. Because things that people don't realise is that being a lawyer involves a lot more than just talking about the law. It involves a lot of client handling. So I would say to anybody who wants to be a lawyer, the things that people are looking for in lawyers is that you can speak easily and well to other people whom you haven't met and inspire respect in them. And that can be in any context, whether you're working in a shop, even if you're working behind a bar or working in a school or whatever. The ability to build up relationships quite quickly. In terms of getting experience, I am a great believer in working in the community, in almost any setting where you are assisting people who do not have your education. Filling in forms. When I first worked in a factory, when I was 17, I filled in personal injury forms for people. And that was the basis of me starting to become a lawyer. And going and sitting in court and watching cases. The courts are free to go and watch. I would recommend anybody who wants to get a bit of experience in the criminal law just to sit in a public gallery and watch a case going on. And you'll come away with a much better understanding of what law is actually about. Okay?
I think I might go and try and watch a case. I didn't realise it was, you could just...
Oh yes, yes you can, and you should. That, so long as you don't get up during the judge's summing up or cough loudly during the most important bits of the cross-examination. The only thing I'd say to you, anybody who's going to sit in court, take some cough sweets, because you'd be surprised, the urge to cough will come upon you just at the important bits. So take some cough sweets. You can't take a drink. Any water you get in court, you have to get, it's all very complicated, but you can certainly take cough sweets. Okay.
Yeah, and then also I wanted to ask, is there any opportunity to have any experience with you this time?
With me? Oh, normally I offer marshallings all the time. The trouble at the moment is that I'm sitting remotely from home. What I've been doing recently, and I only do it if people are a little bit further on than you, but I'm happy to talk to people. I've been doing advocacy training for the pupils on my southeastern circuit. So they've been connecting with me via Skype for Business, and they've been doing like a mock mitigation, and I've been telling them what they've done right, what they've done wrong. So that's what I'm doing at the moment remotely. But generally speaking, I offer marshalling at St Albans to anybody who wants to come down to St Albans and spend a couple of days with me. Any law student at all who wants to come and see a bit of, and they sit on the bench with me. And I see no reason why that shouldn't resume as soon as the current pandemic is calmed down a bit.
For anybody who doesn't know what marshalling is it okay just to explain?
Oh yes, marshalling is when usually a law student, quite often though a pupil barrister, sits with the judge for a couple of days on the bench. They don't take any part in making the decisions, but they do have the advantage of joining the judge in their chambers to talk about the case before and afterwards. They obviously have to sign a fairly massive confidentiality undertaking, but it's to give people an insight into judiciary rather than just simply the court and how decisions are made. It's fairly intense. 2 days is enough for anybody.